Hello, everyone. This is Sartaj Anand, the founder of egomonk, and welcome to Business Beyond 2030, the show where we explore the socio-economic and technological revolutions shaping our world, and the role of business in realizing the future. Business has the transformative ability to move all of us from today to tomorrow with a shared purpose. And I have the privilege to unpack complexity with the world's smartest and most compassionate business leaders and decision makers as they deliver on their promise of abundance. This time around, we have Ravi Machani on the show. He is the managing director of the Machani Group, an 80-year-old family business run by the third generation of entrepreneurs. Ravi is a socially responsible business leader, an avid music enthusiast, and a forward-thinking visionary who ardently follows his passion in engineering, technology, and design. His stints working outside the family business have helped him gather expertise in many areas, including corporate finance, global M&A, turnaround management, operations, and strategy. Ravi believes business has the power to do tremendous good and serves on the board of Entrepreneurs Organization, a global network of more than 13,000 business owners across 46 countries. First of all, Ravi, thanks so much for making time out and being on the show.
My pleasure.
You're part of the Machani Group, and that's a 80-year-old family business group. It's run by the third generation of entrepreneurs. I think a lot of people would be interested to know what's the secret behind cultivating such a long-standing entrepreneurial mindset.
Hey, thank you, Saja, for having me here. It's a pleasure. I'm happy to share what I've learned in the family business and outside. So the first question was, what's the secret behind cultivating an entrepreneurial mindset in a family business? My personal take is I would like to break them into two separate silos first, and then we'll see how to mix them. Yeah. So the first one about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a mindset that either you get it within yourself or influenced by outside. You're taking on the odds. Most of the times, it's a 90% chance that you will fail. So there are very few people in the world, and statistics say it's about less than 5% of the people that take on these odds. It's a mindset that is only driven by conviction, illogical pursuit of a success that's defined by the entrepreneur. And that mindset is there in people, in 5% of the population in this world. So collecting such people in a family business is where the overlap really happens. Sometimes this entrepreneurial mindset is in the family. Sometimes you have to bring it from outside the family. Look at the statistics. There are only 330 million entrepreneurs out of the 7 billion population in the world. So that's less than 5%. So this 5% of the people, for somebody to expect to be born into the family is a bit of an unfair expectation from the family. The family has a massive advantage that they grow in a family environment of entrepreneurs. So they're definitely stacked up against most of the people who probably don't grow up in this environment. So that advantage definitely a family business has. But the past success is absolutely no measure of what is possible in the future.
Yeah, it's a lagging indicator.
It's always a lagging indicator. This is like trying to drive a car looking in the rearview mirror, and it's not a possibility. The rearview mirror only can show you how far you've come or where you are, but not necessarily where you can go. So they're two very separate things.
So how are you how's the next generation of the family approaching the business? Are you seeing some patterns already emerge?
So I'm seeing some really interesting patterns emerge, and I think the family businesses till, let's say, 2020 to the family businesses till 2029 are completely different animals. The next decade, according to the research, shows that by 2029, for the first time, a machine will have more cognitive capacity than a human being. The challenges that we face obviously have never been faced before. So as a family business, we can do two things. We can prepare for the future or deny on what's worked in the past. Yeah. So there are three aspects to any family business. One is stability, growth, and leadership. And there are three different minimum legs of a stool that you need for stability and future of any business. Let's talk about growth, because that's where the future really is in question. Our past businesses have been successful for reasons that are really ingrained in the past. For us to be successful in the future, we really have to stare at the future, pick up what matters for the future, and work on them proactively. There's a reactive working and a proactive working. Kodak was the first company in the world that invented the digital camera, and that's now history. Yeah? While that's a bad example, there are plenty of good examples too. So family businesses, like for example, our own manufacturing of springs, is a legacy business that will turn 60 years old next February in 2020. While it's an incredible milestone, most businesses, including automotive business, is staring at a massive disruption because most industries disrupt themselves after 80 years or so. And it's happened across the world. And the pace of that disruption is happening at an alarming rate. What took 80 years in the past is now taking maybe 20 or 40. And the electric vehicle is here to stay. It's coming. It's a question of when. So how we adopt the future is really a challenge that one family business has to answer.
So you mentioned the three legs of that stool: stability, growth. I think family businesses have that core strength of longevity. They stay around much longer typically than a typical corporate or a startup. But as a custodian of the group, how are you thinking about enhancing that longevity?
So every business has its feast and famine cycles. And we also stare at disruption. The difference between innovation and disruption is innovation is doing something better, marginally better, sometimes a little bit much better. Disruption is something that you do once in a while that you completely make the past irrelevant.
Cannibalize.
You just, there's no other choice. You have to cannibalize. So when you're looking at a family business, we have no choice but to invest in growth. And growth can come from new economies and also the next new economies. Growth can come from economies in the future if you invest and prepare for it and meet when the time is right to really put in bigger chips and actually monetize the opportunity. So it's really important for family businesses to prepare for a time before it can be monetized, and that it is growth, new economy. Family businesses have the stability from the past, but there's no insurance or a guarantee that you'll have the same stability going forward. So within that stability, as a rule of thumb in our family business, we invest a portion of what we earned last year for the future. This is a discipline that every family business or any business has to have. It is very easy to cut the monies that we need for the future to enjoy the maximum profits today. All of us, eat today and bear the brunts of it in the next 6 months. What we eat today kind of determines where we're going to be in 3 months. So it's one of those things. So we have to choose how much to eat today to be able to be fine today and for the future. It's the balance that's required. So you have to invest for growth. This is one of the biggest mistakes, not just family businesses, most businesses make. Growth is an absolute necessary ingredient for stability of any business.
Yeah, it's a classic asset allocation problem. So I'm trying to understand, what's the thumb rule that you guys follow? Is it 75, 25, 90, 10? What sort of makes sense? And how does it vary?
So for me, every business goes through its feast cycles and famine cycles. In the feast cycles is when you chance upon upsides that you normally don't in most cycles. And that's when you tuck away 20 to 30% of your feast cycle money for growth. And growth, is like any startup. You have a runway. You tuck it away towards that growth. And that runway is what gives you the chance to prepare for a chance to monetize, be opportunistic when the time is right to switch it on.
You mentioned electric vehicles, self-driving, AI voice assistants. The fourth industrial revolution is fully sort of playing out, not just in India, but all over the world. As a family business, how do you sort of try to participate? Because they're viewed as legacy businesses, slow-moving, sort of monolithic creatures. So how do you attach yourself to this new economy?
So let's look at the IC engines and electric vehicles. And let's look at it dispassionately and take a view from the forest and then come to the trees. The electric vehicle moves bodies. So does the IC engine. IC engine has 2,000 odd parts. It's an engineering marvel. An electric vehicle probably has 60 parts. They both move people, but they're completely different core products. One is a product that people like to buy. The mobility future business is more of a service that people are going to use. And for a manufacturing company that is making auto components, it's easier to adapt itself into a furniture industry than it is to the electric vehicle. The good comparison would be a Swiss watch to an Apple watch. They both tell time, but they're two different animals, fundamentally different products. There's an illusion that it's a watch, but Apple is more a computer telling you time. It's the same way the electric vehicle is really a computer on wheels that is happening to move people. The same battery stack in an electric vehicle can be plugged into your home, and it can just as easily charge your home requirements for electricity. In fact, that's the future plans for the batteries that come out of degenerated cars can be repurposed for a home or maybe even your lawnmower. So these battery stacks that can be modular, reusable, stackable is the future. So, long and short of it is, the truth is, it's easier for an auto component company to morph into a furniture company than it is to be in automotive business of the future, because it's really a completely different field. And there's no business in the world that's not going to be touched by computers, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and all these things. These are trains that are going to come and hit you whether you're ready or not. And that's the real question that we are trying to grapple with. And as a family business, we have decided to diversify into defense. So I'm happy to share that my elder brother has managed to pull off an incredible success for the family business, where we have now the top 5 licenses in the country to manufacture assault rifles to protect the country, and also ammunition. So we've now moved to defense because it has a lot of engineering, machining, metallurgy, product development that we have our core competencies in on. And we divorced ourselves from the fact that we have been in the automotive industry for the last 8 years and dispassionately, logically, and loyally trying to keep the 2,000 people that work for us employed. So we have to shift into defense, an industry which we were in the past not really entertained, but today very proactively being opportunistic to manufacture goods for defense. So sometimes it's about a choice to not, for a Swiss watch to try to be an Apple watch. They have no choice but to cling on to be the Swiss watches and be the niche player, or just give up entirely and from Swiss watches probably move into jewelry. That would be a good analogy.
Yeah, so you're talking about essentially lateral growth based on capacities that you anyway have invested in for decades. So there's a big question that I think family businesses tend to grapple with, which is that invest versus operate versus build mindset. And we've noticed that high net worth families often deploy capital via a family office or a venture fund to try to generate those significant IRRs. How is the family beyond diversification sort of going unicorn hunting?
So I heard 3 questions there, but let me see if I can remember all 3 and answer them in the right order. I'll speak for my family. I've seen families and entrepreneurs with 2 mindsets. There are people that roll up their sleeves, jump into the trenches if required, operate, build businesses. Then there are families and entrepreneurs, after they've had the first success or a few successes, no longer want to roll up their sleeves, want to bet on people who are in the trenches building businesses. We come from the first category. Our family DNA has always been proactive entrepreneurship, work with entrepreneurs, but build it from the ground up. That's what's worked for us. And in these areas, the IRRs are far superior, and they're also more stable, more safe, less risk averse. Also, if you're able to roll up your sleeves. I heard something really interesting yesterday when one of the founders of Skype made a comment saying that on a spreadsheet, it is so easy to add customers. Yeah. Right? Revenues is a function of number of customers.
Keep adding them.
Yeah, it's just such an easy task. But in reality, outside the spreadsheet, it's a jungle out there. The second question was?
Yeah, so how do you sort of go unicorn hunting? How do you sort of partake in that sort of idle capital that sometimes exists?
So I think it's a very specialized industry. And the best in the world that I have seen haven't figured out how to spot the unicorns. And look at all the ducks that need to be in a row to get a unicorn going. First of all, you need to have an idea that has the potential to end up as $1 billion. Right? That itself is far and few between, and all the empirical data in the world shows that, there are probably 1 or 2% of the companies that can be unicorn. Second, the entrepreneur behind the idea. Third, the market behind the idea. Fourth, the team behind the idea. The fifth, the economy. I mean, the number of ducks that need to be in a row. This is a tall ask for any unicorn hunting. I don't care, AI-powered, the smartest human beings in the world chasing a unicorn. According to me, there's more chance than analytics or logic that can spot it. What you can do is spot a few businesses that can't be unicorns. But what's wrong with them? At the end of the day, if the question was, if you ask me, I personally love to have $110 million businesses versus 1 billion, one firm. There's always a danger in having one big unicorn. And we all know eggs spread in multiple baskets is a better place to be than to have one big unicorn. So we as a family business don't chase unicorns. We may chase smaller animals,
Sure.
but they are more real than unicorn with their horns on their forehead. So that's been our philosophy. So we believe in fundamentals. We believe in building businesses. We believe in being entrepreneurs. We believe in proactively building businesses along with other entrepreneurs, and we've done that plenty. I have good examples in the family business.
So this is super interesting because this is like the inverse of the power law, right? The Bay Area runs off of finding these unicorns because the capital dies everywhere else. You're like, I'd rather have 100 good businesses, stable returns, and keep growing from there.
Absolutely. And let's look at reality here. One of our good friends is Apramaya, who founded Taxi for Sure.
Yeah.
Very pleasantly was surprised to hear that he started Taxi for Sure 4 to 5 months before Uber. Look at where Taxi for Sure could go and where Uber went. And they're two completely different paths. And who in Silicon Valley or who in Axel Partners in India can play a role in this? It's too hard to tell. Is it the entrepreneur? Is it the idea? Is it the ducks that fall in a row? Is it the team? Is it the market conditions? Who knows what plays out? It's way too complicated.
Yeah, it's a combinatorial issue and you can't predict everything.
You can't predict anything. And I think Silicon Valley should do what it's good at, and India should do what is good for India. We're the largest democracy in the world. It may not be the ideal place to pursue what's in Silicon Valley's strength. Silicon Valley has its strengths. It has the capital, intellectual capital that it has. It's just not true that we have this. If I really want to be creative here, if you could bring an Israel into Bangalore, now that's an interesting model. That I think is a better chance for us.
So you mentioned this, that when you have this builder mindset inside the sort of group, and I am aware that you have some experimental startups under the wings. Is that the same rationale to invest in these sort of more experimental businesses within the group and generate those stable, strong IRRs?
Sure, I'll share a few things that we've done, and I'll share the logic on how we also approach them. So we have a stable core business in real estate. So we built an adjacent business in AR, VR capabilities to complement the core business. The number one advantage an AR/VR company has being attached to a real estate firm is the fact that it has access to cutting-edge domain knowledge, has access to meeting rubber where rubber meets the road. So it can product develop better than a bunch of IITians trying to build a product for a real estate firm.
Yeah.
So that's an advantage. And I bring up a very unique advantage that very few people know about it. It's called captive customers. Captive customer is somebody that's only handing you out an oxygen tank as and when you need it. Just when you need it. And after that, how much can you go explore is the question. But the captive customer can only hand out what is enough for you to go explore. After that, you need to go find these other tanks when you're exploring in an ocean so that you have a deeper dive, longer dive, and you need to build your craft, and that needs to drive on its own. So we found an entrepreneur, Murli, I'm happy to share, to drive this business. Because every business, new business, needs an entrepreneur who gives its undivided attention. It's almost like parenting.
Yeah.
You need that undivided love and caring that it takes to nurture a child.
I completely agree with you. I'm trying to also understand that you mentioned that there is a few legacy businesses in the group. How have you sort of experimented with, say, on entrepreneurship, right, within these legacy businesses? Is there room for them to also grow, better than average?
Absolutely. The phase I'm in right now, I love to work with entrepreneurs. Maybe a little bit of overexposure to entrepreneurs in general. It's just the peer network that I spend most of my time with now. And I'm constantly looking for entrepreneurs in my ecosystem and outside the ecosystem. When I find a really interesting entrepreneur, I give them an opportunity that can feed off the core business. So we give them captive business and we give them a runway, say 3 to 5 years, and within which the entrepreneur has to find, their own destiny. Like any other startup, we need a time, a runway, amount, and a team. So the ability for the entrepreneur to leverage the runway time and the money to build a viable business is what's really at stake. My golden rules are, I give 2 years time. In that 2 years time, I can take care of payroll for a company that can grow at 30 to 42% in a year on year.
Easier, yeah.
That's it. And the entrepreneurs has to find customers to take it from there. It's like you're almost giving a foundation layer enough for survival, but the entrepreneur has to really find the other oxygen tanks for them to build the business on. You can't lay out everything to an entrepreneur. It doesn't work.
You have to go beyond the spreadsheet.
Absolutely. Beyond the spreadsheet.
So just sort of zooming out a little bit and focusing on you. If you were 18 today and you were inheriting this rich heritage of entrepreneurship and the family business itself, what's the one thing you would try to learn?
So if I were 18, I would ask one really interesting question that probably should be part of every school curriculum. There are a lot of changes, future that stare at us. And the question is, can I imagine a future without this? Example, robotics. Example, cognitive entities. These are computers that can start to think like humans. They'll probably never be like humans. I don't know. I won't probably be around to see that, but they can definitely mock a human being. So if the answer is no, I cannot imagine a future without them, then this is definitely going to happen. So this is what we are doing in our family business. I'm happy to share that we are working on robotics. I'm happy to share that we are working on artificial intelligence. This, I think, is a necessary ingredient for a family business to be in the future. The world is getting faster. Businesses are getting built much faster. They're dying even faster. I think leveraging the new economies and the next new economies is an essential ingredient, not a luxury anymore. And for me, a new economy would be something like e-commerce. Let's face it, e-commerce is growing faster. Digital marketing is beating offline marketing. But that doesn't mean that you can build a future just on the new economy. You have to build a future on the next new economy too. What's coming your way that's not apparent today. And the ability to see around the corners is a craft. It takes time. It takes mentorship from people that can read and focus what's about around the corner. And surrounding yourself around with people like them, is what really makes the difference.
So you touched on the next sort of question I had, which is, if you were 18 today, what's that one business opportunity you'd like to work on?
So at 46, I'm working on robotics. That's that one business that I would pick today for multiple reasons. The first big reason is it's extremely challenging. Robots today are still a laughing stock, but not for too long. Robotics is a multidisciplinary engineering, physics, chemistry, computers.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything thrown in.
I mean, everything thrown in. You don't have a bigger blender product out there. I mean, long and short of it, you're trying to make humans, you're trying to make superhumans, you're trying to make objects that are not humans, and all of these are robots. Can we imagine a future without robots? Absolutely no. Are we there yet? Absolutely no. Are we going to be there? Absolutely yes. And for me, robotics is that one pick that I'll pick because it has all the elements of the future: artificial intelligence, security,
IoT,
ethics, IoT. I mean, you can think of anything. It is all going to be in one big blender in this one milkshake.
I think now just going into back to the family. So I've noticed that family businesses, because the dynamics at play can get quite complex over time and as the generations move on. How do you approach serious topics within the family, such as income splitting or succession planning? Because those are sometimes thorny issues.
So I think family businesses around the world are quite badly misunderstood. And I say this openly because research shows that 80% of the businesses in the US are family businesses. Yet there's a perception that it is the other 20% that's dominating the economic landscape. It's the first point. Secondly, what will shock you is less than 1% of the books are written for family businesses. Be it leadership in a family business is completely different than leadership in a non-family business. And the definition of a family business is, if you start a business, Sartaj, and you have the intention to pass it on to the next generation, it's a family business. So given all these things in the past, the family businesses of the future have to rely on what's worked for other family businesses in the past and build from there and add the relevant pieces. IMD Switzerland has done the best research in the world. They've researched the 25 ingredients that it takes for a family business to be successful. And they've researched 100-year-old family firms. So they are not only testing businesses that have been successful financially, but they're really testing them for longevity. Yeah. So 100-year-old family businesses, and let's say you study a couple of hundred of these, that'll give you enough base research work to base your future on. So that's what we've done in our family business. And in a family business, there's a big perception that needs to be addressed. Having differences is extremely healthy. Having disputes is extremely unhealthy. So in the two words, family and business, what is more important? I can tell you, family is more important. If there's no family, there is absolutely no business. So we also address the needs of the family as much as we address the needs of the business. For example, personally, I may have all the interest in the world to pursue robotics and the risk appetite too. If my sister or my brother don't want to pursue robotics and it's not part of their end all, whatever that is, it's really unfair for me to force them. So we're talking and addressing this issue called independence. So autonomy and independence within the family business is equally important. And a family business is really 3 layers of businesses juxtaposed on each other and supposed to perform as one entity. And it's not always easy. Running a family business, according to me, is 3 times harder than a pure play pursuit of financial goals business.
You already mentioned that you have this sort of builder mindset, but what do you think about that model where there are family businesses that at some point just want to be owners, not operators? They sort of introduce professional managers and they go that route. I know it works for some families, it doesn't for others. Where do you stand on that?
My personal opinion is every generation should have operation. I've learned a few things from my grandfather. He's saying there's a time in your life when you keep your hands in your pocket. Now, before you put your hands in your pocket and walk around in the office, you need to have your rolls, hands, sleeves rolled up and be on the ground. Irrespective of whether family or non-family business, every human being should have a damn good grasp on operations before he can work on business. And this is across all the businesses around the world. Operational experience is what teaches you that customers cannot be multiplied on a spreadsheet. If you're the fanciest educated person from, let's say, Wharton, you might be a wizard in spreadsheet. But if you're unable to handle the vagaries of people, the challenges on the ground, the illogical challenges that can bring you down and have what it takes to hold on, you'll never be able to build a business. In my personal experience, for our next generation, we are going to mandate that people handle operations before they sit on top and board the decisions, if you mean. So what gives a person to sit on a board and give you executive decisions on the board? Unless you've climbed down from operations, in my personal opinion, nobody has a right to give board opinions. That's a big mistake, according to me. Because a family business is just not about money. If it's just about money, then it's okay. That's a good stand to take. You will never be able to build next generation businesses with the pure mindset of just investing. You're just being a family bank. If that's the end goal, then it's a perfect vision to have. For our family business, financial currency is just one of the things that we pursue. We're not trying to just be a family bank and keep, healthy generations going. We are looking for generations that actively build value beyond financial currency for the community at large. It's the impact currency that matters. It's the relationship currency that matters. It is relationship across the globe that matters. There are so many other things that we pursue that matter to us. The reputation currency. And all these things only come through operations, not just financial investing.
Yeah,
you have to be out there.
Yeah, banks don't have that level of commitment or respect.
Absolutely not.
So you had mentioned this earlier that the Machani Group has 2,000 plus sort of employees on its rolls. Do you believe family businesses treat their workforce differently compared to corporations, vanilla corporations that are just about maximizing ROI?
I would like to answer this in a different way. I will share how the best run family businesses treat their employees. The 5% of the family businesses, the excellence pursuing family businesses, treat their core employees like family. I mean, what you and I know, that there's a family that you're born into, and then there's a family that you choose, starting from your wife, children, could be your good friends. These are the family that you choose. How different is it at workplace? So every business has core employees who are really your family and employees that come for a salary. So it's important to distinguish the two. And it's really important to nurture this family by bond, not necessarily family by birth. So that is the absolute core ingredient that it takes to build a stable, solid family business. So you have to treat your core team, people that are related to you by bond, not necessarily by blood, as family. So in my personal journey, I have plenty of people who are family by bond, not by blood.
So in this context, what's the culture that you think is powering the Machani Group today?
Number one is family culture. And what is a family? The non-negotiable ingredients are trust and respect. Respect differences. Avoid disputes, but not differences. Keeping it real. And let's face it, all of us, if I ask you, you have 1 week to live. What do you think you will do? Go chase your next customer or go chase your family? We all have these conflicts. So clearly, family first is the number one culture thing that we have. We have 3 things that we put out in a culture document. Work smart, have fun, help each other out. All 3 are non-negotiables for a family business. Working smart always yields far better results than working hard. That's an illusion out there. Between you and I, 80% of what we are is because of only the 20% of the things that we've done in our life. That's why it's important, counterintuitive, that working smart is far better a choice than working hard. And we give plenty of time for a lot of fun. I said work smart, have fun. We have a couple of bands in the office. We have as much fun in the office as we work. And it's equally important. At the end of the day, a family business is like going to a home. That's why if you come to our office, it's an anti-office. It's a home where we come and work. So, fun is equally important too. And the third thing that's part of a family culture is helping each other out. It's a non-negotiable ingredient in a family business. May not be required in most other forms of businesses, but in a family business, you will and have to help each other out. That's what family makes a family. Otherwise, these are just a bunch of people put together who are just trying to make money together. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and also the good thing is that it's the culture values are super simple to understand. Oftentimes, when you go to a corporate, the long list of values sort of obfuscate what the actual value is. So family businesses tend to be more reflective, I would say, and inward-looking, in my experience. Do you think there needs to be more knowledge sharing among this group, or how does it happen right now?
So I've seen pockets of excellence in family businesses. I've seen amazingly professionally run family businesses in Europe. I've seen a few really well-run businesses in the US. And I don't have a whole lot to say about businesses from the rest of the world. They're very financially successful, but they're not really good at, I think, learning the best practices from each other, nor are we the best at networking. If you ask me, where are the Machani Group families around the world? They're hard to come by. There are a few families in Japan, there are a bunch in America, there are a few in Europe. We could do a much better job of families networking as families rather than individuals going and networking with other individuals. Because if you think about it, a really good analogy would be you take a for-profit company that's not a family business. Let's just call it a non-family business. A non-family business is like a 100 meters dash or a marathon. Somebody who's trying to make the quickest buck is after a 100-meter dash. Somebody who wants a marathon is preparing for a marathon, and the two different animals, completely different training. A family business is a relay race of marathons. Right? You run for 42 years and you pass on the baton to the next generation. So the DNAs are completely different. And so the way we prepare is completely different. And there's a good research material out there for all of us to leverage. And that's one of the big messages that I want to carry, that family businesses are extremely powerful if they operate in the excellence layer. The moment they slip from the excellence layer, they're obviously plagued by the challenges, I'll say, of family businesses. And a lot of time, these are tensions that will pull you in opposite directions. That does not mean it's bad. Again, going back to the original comment about healthy differences versus disputes. Differences are super necessary for all businesses to thrive. Disputes are not.
Do you think there's an opportunity for the Machani Group to bring together family businesses in the region at least?
It's definitely one of my life pursuits. My dream is to build a network like YPO and EO for family businesses, because our core DNA is very different. The way we take decisions is, usually for decades. I'm not worried about the next quarter. Yeah. Fortunately, we're not in a, right. I would say a fashion show. It doesn't matter how good we look today. It's really important that we stay and look good long term. So, yeah, the dream is there. I am spending some time with IMD Switzerland, who's got really good research. I'm spending some time with Harvard. They've also done some good work on family businesses. And according to me, this is a night and day difference to a family business. Just the awareness of all the typical challenges that a family business faces is a first step. And education for a family business is a few layers above just running a business. You're just pursuing money in a business. In a family business, you're pursuing legacy. You're pursuing family by bond. You're pursuing growth along with stability. You're pursuing a whole lot of other things. Yeah. Multidimensional currencies, which is a lot harder to do than for a pure profit company.
Because there's just one metric there.
It's just one metric. My grandfather knows how many people we employ.
I think we could probably help with that convening. So I look forward to that. You had mentioned this earlier that you recently diversified from real estate into defense. There are so many multi-billion-dollar opportunities out there. So how do you approach diversification? Is there a mental model that sort of stitches or connects everything?
I would say every organization has a center. And the center is like a rubber band. You can stretch it only so much. If you stretch it, it'll come back. Beyond a point, if you stretch, it'll snap. So I'll talk about our manufacturing industry, and then I'll talk about the non-manufacturing business and why we have pursued what we pursued. Our manufacturing business, the core strength is metallurgy, engineering, scale operations, factories, ability to manage labor, long product development cycles, and all the rest of the stuff it takes to go with the manufacturing capability. And after a strategy session, we understood and realized that we're closer to guns and ammunition than we are to the electric vehicle. Sure. Going back to the analogy of a Swiss watch to an Apple watch, they both tell time, but they're different animals. So that's why for the manufacturing business, we built this new diversification in defense. And the logic is as follows. Defense spend in the country domestically is going to rise, according to me, 800x.
I agree.
Right? Everybody's complaining about the challenges that we have in automotive business. Why isn't anybody looking at the opportunities in defense? The government for the last 4 years and the next 4 years, they are not going to outsource anything that we can procure locally. Make in India has been written everywhere. So defense is something they're going to make in India. So why won't you make things in India with the same set of strengths that you have? I think it's the ability to be true to your business, to be loyal to your people, not necessarily the industry badge that you have. And our goal is to keep our 2,000 people and growing in manufacturing. So that's why we've done what we've done. You take a look at our real estate industry. We had a very unique opportunity to diversify, and we have a blank canvas. So in real estate industry, we could have diversified in making, tiles and lights and a few other things. But we took a very complementary approach in diversification to what we did in manufacturing. And in real estate, we went very aggressive. It was an offensive position versus a defensive position in manufacturing. In manufacturing, we're trying to protect jobs. We're trying to protect our turf with 10 plants, 1 plant in the US. It's a very defensive position. So that move is different. In real estate, it was a business that we built based on new cash flows that we can bring to the family. And anyway, the risks were high. It's a new business, new set of customers, new set of vendors. Everything is new. So when the risk is high, when we diversify, we might as well go with a high risk option.
Yeah, you need more rewards also, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why we went with AR/VR. And we built Zapi Labs, which is an AR/VR company in the business of simulation and visualization for real estate industry. And what we were able to build for real estate industry, we've now gone and done it for healthcare. We've done it for defense and a few other industries that we're looking at. So that's how we've diversified in real estate. We've gone very offensive, high risk, high growth, because there's high risk, higher growth anyway in the new business that we plan to work on.
You had mentioned this as well, that family businesses think multidimensionally, and impact, currency and legacy is an important consideration. Could you talk a little bit more about, say, your rural BPO impact sourcing effort in D-Village, and also broadly how important it is for family businesses to build this legacy of good?
The last name is extremely powerful name in your full name. It transfers transgenerations. So there's something special about it. So the things that you need to do for legacy are completely different than things that you have to do for the short term. So it's the balance. Every successful family business that's lasted over 100 years has a foundation of a rock-solid philanthropic initiative. Every. So it's not a luxury, absolute necessity. It is where the generation that is passing on the baton permanently, the older generation, let's say my father, gets to onboard the next generation in this philanthropic activities to inject pride in the family business. There are things money can buy and things money can't buy. Reputation, unfortunately, can't be bought. You can be known, but reputation can't be bought. And I won't comment who's more reputable. There's an automatic reaction when we talk about Tatas and Reliance. Right? It is what it is. And that is real. So every family business has to have philanthropic work, because you have to pursue non-financial currencies too. That's when the real longevity and the next generation can be onboarded into the family business. So a family business has 3 generations working at the same time. You have the generation that is passing on, moving on. They are best suited to onboard the incoming generation. The current operating generation are best at operating the current generation and preparing for the success of not the incoming generation, but after that. So there are certain best practices that work, and philanthropy is a non-negotiable ingredient of any family business. So we set out Indie Village really 9 years ago. January 6th of 2020 will be our 10th year. But that's just one philanthropic initiative in the family. Our legacy philanthropic initiative called MG Brothers is now 60 years old.
Wow.
So for a family business, pursuing impact currency is a non-negotiable. It's a necessity, not a luxury.
Yeah, because the broader environment, I think Bloomberg was saying that in the next 10 years or so, we'll have around $1.5 trillion of family wealth transferred across generations. I think this philanthropic view is super important because when you have rising inequity, you have to do something to pass on that legacy of good.
I think it's a moral obligation all of us carry. I was fortunate enough to be at the UN. At the United Nations, the General Assembly got me an opportunity to look at the 17 Sustainability Development Goals the UN is trying to get out there. So 2030 is when they're trying to reach these sustainability goals. And that should be part of everybody's DNA, family or non-family. Because the world that we are facing is facing challenges that is never faced in the last 20,000 years. We have done more damage to this planet in the last 30 years or 40 years than we probably have done in the last 30,000 years. Or we never did anyway. So nature is a very wise and self-sustaining entity. She will find a way to wipe us out. Yeah. I don't think we need to worry about the world. We need to worry about ourselves. If we are going to share this planet with Mother Earth, we have an obligation to share it with her, not really, plunder her. It's not going to work. We don't need to worry about human race. I think, as long as we are respectful to her. So the world will find its way. It'll heal itself. It'll wipe out human beings if we don't care. So I think now it's more of a necessary awareness, actions, moral responsibilities. All of these are very much required for us to be even part of this planet.
So Ravi, just thinking a little bit about exposure to startups. Is the family an LP in any funds? How does it want to sort of externally tap into private equity or other asset classes? How do you approach that part? How do you make others make money for you?
So we're quite set in this particular aspect of investing, and it might change over time. Currently, what we do is we invest in companies that add value to our core businesses. So these are the adjacent businesses that come our way that add value to the core businesses. Or we invest in companies that have a long-term value to the family business in terms of playing a role in the new businesses or the next new businesses. E-commerce on, let's say, fine furniture from Bali to complement our real estate business would be the new economy. And robotics would be the next new economy. So as a family business, we've been investing in these adjacent businesses that add value to the core for a couple of reasons. Number one, we have captive customers in the core business that can nurture the adjacent businesses. So we are a family that believes in customer-funded businesses. We don't believe in accelerating any company way beyond a point where it cannot sustain its growth. Making money from customers is still the only way to be a profitable business. I'm not against the new way of borrowing private equity or anybody's money, but the moral obligation to pay back these investors exists. If the private equity makes money only by going on IPO, and you just spread the dream
and the
risk from a bunch of Canadian pension fund to the people around the world, I still think you have the moral obligation to at some point make profits. There's no running away from this. So if the game is to only flip the companies and you make the money, then it's a great strategy. For us, it's not. We are only pursuing money after we have enough conviction that the customers will fund your business. And that's the only way to grow.
Would the group ever consider listing, like being a public sort of entity as well, going that route?
Yeah, definitely there are advantages in going IPO. We have considered taking our manufacturing business IPO in the past. And we want to go IPO for the right reasons. We just want to go out there for the wrong reasons. There are massive advantages in not going IPO too. Today, I'm not bothered about my next quarter performance. I'm bothered about how we do in the next 5 years. Why would I buy myself a guillotine above my neck if I don't need one? So, there is no glory in building a public company. It's about building a company. Take families like BMW, take Cargill. These are huge companies. $280 billion, world's largest family business. They don't do IPO. I don't know if an IPO is the only way to grow.
And just moving back to the locus of the family, if say the next incoming generation of the family didn't want to be a part of the family business, how would you support them, encourage them? What options would they have to, be attached and yet be independent?
So for every family member, we believe in an empowerment and an entitlement. Every family member is entitled to wealth. A role in the family business is earned. That's empowerment. And you get empowered if you have a track record. For our family business, we have understood that 30 years of age is a good time to bring the next generation into the family business. So until 30 years of age, the family member is encouraged to be outside in the world and completely discouraged from being in the family business. This is the time any individual gets to calibrate where he stands in any ecosystem and how good they are in a workplace. And at that level is when the family person can be inducted into the family business. So it's a good way to gauge where a family business member can come in. And second thing is, like any other business, a family member gets to apply to be part of the family business, and the family board decides if this person is going to play an active role in building the family business, and they can accept or reject the role.
So the process sounds really democratic or built around consensus within your particular family business. Is that the norm? Or is it more of a patriarchal structure that you think exists in other typically family businesses?
I think consensus-based decision is a healthy decision framework in a few cases. For a family business, it is. It makes sense to leverage consensus-based decision making for the family decisions. For the non-family business decisions, it needs to be as free and have the advantage of running like a business. And if you see empirically around the world, the best run businesses usually have two entrepreneurs. There are very few rare cases of excellent businesses built by one entrepreneur. There are tons of two entrepreneur businesses, and there are a few of three and more. Those are rare. So I'd say entrepreneurship is like parenting. You can be a brilliant single parent, but you're always going to be a brilliant single parent. I think an ideal family is two. Because in my personal journey, I have found that if somebody is brilliant at the external world, they're not so great at the internal world. So a CEO is somebody that goes out in the world, is a great torchbearer, a great poster child, a great person to face the outside world. They may be excellent at acquiring customers, excellent at banking relationships. They're not necessarily the best people to organize and nurture the inner team. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So there are excellent CEOs and there are excellent COOs.
And you need both for the good business.
You need absolutely both of them. Absolutely both of them. In fact, a COO role is completely underplayed, kind of like the family business. You look at any economy in the world, and US economy, which is the most diverse non-family business, 80% of US economy is family businesses. And they run on these COOs who seem to be brilliant at internally nurturing what it takes to make a fabulous family business. So it's extremely important to get both of them right.
Another question I had was about income splitting, because what happens is as the generations of entrepreneurs and generations of family members grow, there's an exponential sort of growth. And you mentioned that everyone, to some degree, is entitled to that wealth that the family has accumulated. How does it operate? Like, there is a tremendous degree of opacity around this part. So what's the right way of approaching this division of wealth or this sharing of privilege?
I would say there's a lack of understanding rather than opacity. It's actually extremely simple. I'm a family member actively running businesses in the family ecosystem. I get two streams of income. One is dividends as a shareholder, and I've inherited this. So that's the wealth that I'm entitled to. Now I have a second compensation, which is my salary and maybe even my performance bonus earned by being empowered. So I measure myself against any other CEO or other CXOs in the world, and it's no different. The opportunity cost for me being in the family business need not be a weakness or a strength. So there are two real big components. One is the entitlement, which is the wealth that you get as dividends that you're born in. It's a virtue of, being born into the family. You are entitled to that. But the other piece has to be earned. So we have very clear demarcations in this. And for the businesses that I run, and if I outperform the industry and I do really well, my family rewards me for it.
Okay, perfect. Completely agree with you. Well, thanks so much, Ravi, for taking time out, and appreciate you having this conversation with us.
Yes, that's a wonderful morning it's been. Thank you. Enjoyed sharing as well.
Egomonk is an impact publisher, bringing organizations closer to the communities they want to serve and the leaders they wish to influence. We combine insight, context, and experience to deliver asymmetric outcomes and are driven by our goal to positively impact 1 billion human lives by 2030. If you'd like to collaborate with us, then please visit our website, egomonk.com, or send me an email at sartaj@egomonk.com. And if you like this episode, then please do share it with others and consider rating and reviewing us wherever you listen to your podcasts.